Now we're ready to look at the facets of the message, or the elements of a message, if you will. These facets or these elements help determine that deep structural meaning. And if you remember, this is step 2 of the interpreting process. We're trying to find and determine what is the main point of the message. So much like this flower, a message is in its entirety is a flower, but it's composed of many different parts, like the petals of the flower. So we're looking at content. We're looking at function, the linguistic register, which we've already talked about in class, the affect, the contextual force or the emphasis, the metanotative qualities or the style of the presenter, the content of the message. So we're going to look at each one of these elements. At the same time, we're going to watch a video of Michelle Obama talking about the importance to vote in the last election. So let's have a look at content first. All right, we're looking at content or matter. What is the content or the matter of the message? It's all of the facts, the ideas, the information, and the material that is expressed by either the speaker or the signer in the message. We're also looking for those implicit and explicit clues or information that's in the message. If you think about English, typically think of a triangle. English speakers typically go from the base is at the top with details, 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 and then the point. In ASL, it's inverted. ASL, we have the point first, detail, 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 and then the base. And sometimes we reiterate the main point as well in ASL. So if I was to think of content or matter, think of it as the gist or the theme. If I have an interpretation and I'm handing it off to someone else, I'm going to give them a little blurb about what they're talking about or what the message is about. So here is a deaf client who is calling their doctor and they're wanting to make an appointment. So let's have a look at Michelle Obama's video and see if you can get the main gist or the main point or the theme of the video.
I want to ask every single American, no matter what party you normally vote for, to please take a moment to pause, click off the news, think about how you felt over these last 4 years, how quickly things have turned, and then think about what the next 4 years could mean for our country's future. The message we will send to our children about who we are and what we truly value. Think about what would possibly compel you to accept this level of chaos, violence, and confusion under this president and be willing to watch our country continue to spiral out of control, because we can no longer pretend that we don't know exactly who and what this president stands for. Search your hearts and your conscience. Go to iwillvote.com to request your ballot and make your voting plan right now. And then vote for Joe Biden like your lives depend on it.
So looking at the content, what is the gist of Michelle's message? Let's have a look at the next element or the next facet of a message. The second facet or the second element of the message is the function or the goal. We want to look at what the general purpose behind the message is. It answers the question, why is this person speaking in the first place? There can be more than one goal for each message. You can entertain, the goal could be to inform or to educate, to persuade, to advise, to convince. What do you think Michelle's goal was or the function of the message in her speech? The third facet is linguistic register. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on linguistic register here. We've spent lots of time talking about linguistic register, and we've had some class time to practice getting comfortable in the various different linguistic registers. So let's move on to the fourth one. So the fourth facet or the fourth element is the affect. This is the feelings and the tone of the message. You're looking at all those paralinguistic clues, such as the volume, the pitch, the rate, the prosody. We're also looking for the vocabulary choices and the syntax. And when we're thinking about affect, I often look at how is the person coming across in their message? How is Michelle Obama coming across? What's the affect? How do you feel when you hear her message? Is she excited? Is she upset? Is she sad? Is she joyous? Is she pleading? When we're looking at the affect, feelings can look a different way, and we have to be really careful in ASL that we're not misunderstanding the affect. Being joyous or happy could be silently giggling with excitement or tears of joy or being super exuberant. Same thing with anger. We're looking for those facial expressions and the eye contact as well. So these are all the features of the affect. Look at Michelle's video again. What do you think her affect was during her speech? So now we're getting into number 5, which is the contextual force. And I look at this as the emphasis. This is the tone of the message, the force of the message. Is Michelle rah, 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 cheering us on? Or how is she, what is the tone? What is the impact of her message in her speech? This is what contextual force is, the emphasis. I know I always say this phrase, but I think number 6 is one of my favorite facets of the message, which is the meta-notative qualities, the speaker's style, the unique behaviors that make them as a speaker. It answers the question, what is a speaker like as an individual? How do they present? What differentiates them from one speaker to another? And how do I incorporate their style in my interpretation or in the interpretation? So if I'm thinking about Mari, how would you describe Mari's style? She's very energetic, she is very upbeat, and she signs very fast. Compared to Vincent, who's a lot more methodical, likes to think about something before he's going to sign it, so it's a little bit slower. So have a look at Michelle Obama's video. How would you describe her presentation style, the way that she speaks while she's presenting the information about get out there and vote and the importance of voting? What would you say is her meditative qualities? So we're nearing the end. We're at the context, which is the situation. What is the situation? This includes the psychological, the environmental, the relational, and the cultural context within the presentation. So for Michelle, what is the context or what is the situation in which she's presenting or speaking? I cannot stress enough the importance of context. Context is absolutely necessary to understanding. It's a cycle. Understanding the context helps us understand the discourse. The more we understand the discourse, the more we understand the context. Have a look at Michelle's video. What context do you know that gives you a deeper, better understanding of her message? So coming back to context, this is why prep is so important. Whenever there's an assignment, we will always ask for prep because the more prep we have, the more context that we have, and then the better understanding that we're going to get for the interpretation. And that's it. Now you know all the facets of a message, and message analysis requires us being able to identify each one of these elements, breaking it down into its smaller parts so then we can bring it back and reproduce the whole message in the target language. You guys were awesome. Let's have a look at Michelle's video in class.